The scope of the problem of child abuse and neglect in Bernalillo County is widespread.
Abuse and neglect is huge here in Albuquerque. Just to date, we're in May already, and in the first 4 months, 350 substantiated abuse and neglect cases have come into court. So there are today in the system in Albuquerque, there's 600 children that have been abused and neglected. And our vision is a CASA for every child.
CASA is an acronym that stands for Court-Appointed Special Advocates, and our volunteers stand up for abused and neglected children in children's court.
CASAs began back in 1982 in Washington State because a judge was sitting on the bench going, I don't have enough information. And he had the foresight to think everyday people out in the community could do this job. I want them to go investigate, find out what's happening with the kid, what does the child want, and then to come back, write a report to me, and tell me what's going on. So a CASA is the eyes and the ears of a judge.
The Court-Appointed Special Advocate program is one of the most effective means for helping children who are victims of child abuse and neglect in the country. The National CASA Association is required to do independent studies to their effectiveness as a recipient of federal funding, and it has been shown time and time again that children benefit from the advocacy of a CASA volunteer through less contact with the juvenile justice system, through fewer foster care placements, and are more often able to find a safe and permanent home in which to live.
They're following one case. They're gathering all that information. Since they only have one child, they're able to visit the schools. They're able to find out what's going on in therapy. They're able to find out what's happening with the parents. Not only do they give a report to the judge, but they're able to send an email to that social worker and say, hey, I went out to visit the child at school and they're having difficulty. So they help all the other professionals on Team Child.
Albuquerque CASA Inc. was an advisory board to a government-run program since its inception in 1985. Our duties were limited in that we did small fundraising, some public awareness campaigns for a government-run program. At the end of 2011, the court decided to issue a request for proposals for this program to nonprofits, and we had 2 weeks to prepare our response, but our preparation had occurred over the previous 4 years. We were ready to let the court know that we understood the need in the community, the standards of the program, and what kind of financial commitment it would take. So after 4 years of strategic planning, of educating ourselves and adopting good board governance policies, after attracting community professionals from Bernalillo County, it is time now for us to execute the plan, to execute our fundraising strategies, our public relations strategies, and our volunteer training as we've prepared to do. So as Albuquerque CASA Inc. today, as a governing board, we are now accountable to the National CASA Association, to their national audit and to their standards of care, to the New Mexico CASA Network, to our contract with the 2nd Judicial District and the judges who rely on our service, and ultimately that makes us accountable to the children we serve.
As the board was creating the budget, they needed to know where all the money would go. For a program that has 250 volunteers, you need 4 full-time volunteer supervisors because National CASA standard says you have to have 1 supervisor for every 30 volunteers.
At $1,100 per child to reach our goal of serving 500 to 600 children in care obviously requires that we increase our budget to nearly $700,000 a year.
Once the board's RFP was accepted and they got the contract to run the program, an article was written in our local paper, and we received over 100 inquiries into people wanting to be CASA volunteers. So when we looked at it and we saw that, we realized that we could grow the program because the board's fundraising and grant writing will get us to that point of having at least a $500,000 program, and the community wants to be involved.
To understand where we started in 2008 and to see where we've come, to go from a supportive, small advisory board to a court-run program, to a fully accountable, fully responsible governing board of directors in our community, it's very exciting, and we're prepared. And we're ready for the job. We have assembled the team. All the pieces are in place, and we're very excited. We can't wait for everybody to know what we're doing.